actually our 14th event. Started off in 2007, thanks to the efforts of Jim Turner and his late wife, Dora. It's been a dream of theirs for a number of years, and finally, through his determination and will, Jim has put this thing together, and we're so thankful for his efforts and his determination. And please recognize Jim Turner. One for Jim. Jim and Kathy spend a lot of time on this every year, and his son Bubba is kind of taking over the reins here. We appreciate all the Bubba's efforts as well. As I said, this is our 14th. We've, after today, inducted some 73 members into the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame. And drag racing in North Carolina is well entrenched with deep roots, even though we're overshadowed by stock car racing. Now, we are the center of the universe for NASCAR and all those teams, but we have produced more racers than any other state in the union. And part of this Hall of Fame are folks like Roy Hill, Ricky Smith, Sox and Martin, Don Carlton, Jim McClure, Ray Price. The name goes on and on. Some 73 worthy individuals have been inducted, and many more to come as we continue to develop third and fourth generation racers in our state. And that we're very much appreciative. Jim, I want to remind you that if your cell phone goes off, you got to come up here and sing the national anthem. As I learned a long time ago, nobody wants to hear anybody speak for more than 3 minutes. So I want to go ahead and get started with today's ceremony. I'd like to first of all recognize, if you're a current member of the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame, will you please stand? I never thought some of you folks would live this long. We have a very great board of directors, I think, especially the guy at the lead, and a nomination committee. If you're part of our nomination committee board of directors, would you please stand? Thank you, gentlemen. All right, well, folks, with that, I'd like to introduce one of our board members, Mr. Mark Joyce, to get rolling here. Mark?
All right, thank you, Steve. Well, folks, it's an honor to be a part of this great association of racers and board members. And to kick off this 2023, I'm going to bring Mr. Steve Airwood back up, a longtime fixture of the Rockingham Dragway. He's off to even greater things as he retired. But one thing about it, he made impact on the sport of drag racing, and he still will. Here, part of the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame. So he will speak and introduce Miss Shirley O'Downey. Come on up, Steve.
Once again today, we're at the Greensboro Civic Center for the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame.
If you are a current female drag racer or former female drag racer, would you please raise your hand? If you are a family member, if your daughter, sister, wife, or cousin is a drag racer or former drag racer, please raise your hand. Okay. You can all thank this next person I'm going to introduce. She not only broke the barrier for females in our sport, she shattered the barrier. She was the first female to be licensed to drive a top fuel dragster. When she first started racing, NHRA fought back. Jack Hart was the director of competition for NHRA at the time, and their biggest fear was that somebody's mama might get killed in an NHRA track, and the adverse publicity we'd get for that. Well, we got lots of adverse publicity those days anyway. But they were very reluctant to get her licensed. Well, she's pretty determined, and she got licensed, and as a matter of fact, no less than Dunn Garnetts, T.B. Tomiavo, and Connie Kalita signed off for her license. When she started off, her first pro car was a twin-engine front-motor dragster, if you can imagine such a thing, wrestling something like that. She was the first female to win a Nitro Funny Car event. That was at Rockingham in 1971, a place dear to me. And I was there at that event. I remember seeing her in the pit, and I said, how in the world does this brunette fox possibly handle a Nitro Funny Car? But she did it quite well, and was most successful in funny cars. And then she jumped over to Top Fuel to be the first female licensed to drive a Top Fuel car. She was the first female to win a Top Fuel event. She won 18 NHRA national events in her career, and back in those days, we only had 8 or 12 national events. We didn't have them every other weekend like we do now. So running a national event back then even meant more than it does today. Plus, she raced some 60 match races a year in a top fuel car, in a fuel funny car, and some of the most backward racetracks you've ever seen, the most dangerous tracks you've ever seen to get down, but that's how she made her living, so she could afford to run the NHRA national events. She's the first female to win an NHRA Top Fuel World Championship, won her first in 1979. She's the first top fuel racer of any gender to win 2 championships. She won her second one in 1980. She was the first racer to win 3 Top Fuel World Championships. She did in 83. She has been inducted in numerous Hall of Fames, including the National Motorsports Hall of Fame for all the motorsports. She's in that Hall of Fame along with the likes of A.J. Foyt, Marilyn Andretti, Dale Earnhardt, and Richard Petty. Not only is she one of the top names in our sport, in fact, she was voted as one of the top 5 drag racers of all time for the NHRA. She is also a household name in all forms of motorsports. Would you please give a warm welcome to Shirley Modowney.
Hey, Shirley Modowney, our first inductee in the 2023 North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame.
He was taken, so I never had it. I couldn't throw my hat in the ring when he was available. But thank you very much. First of all, I want to apologize for the dark glasses. I left the ones where I can see where I'm going in my bag, so bear with me here. I'm delighted to see the turnout here. I wasn't. I didn't know what I was, in tune for and in line for, but I was surprised this morning to see my friend Fred Wagenhals, gentleman that stood in front of his jet and shook hands with the Mac Tools president and agreed to send me down the racetrack in my final year, 2003. Agreed to a deal, I think it was just under $400,000. And Mac, he welched on the deal. So left the bag in Fred's lap. And Fred dug deep and coughed up $400,000 for me. So you'll get to myself and my team that were all fly-in volunteers that year. They did finally first get paid, thanks to Fred. And we went out running the quickest and fastest I ever ran in my entire career in my year. So that was pretty exciting for me and the team members. We didn't win a national event in the final year, but we did run 5 and went in and we spoiled it for a number of people. Bernstein saw his trailer real early up there in and he came from the racetrack and sat in his car for a half hour. He looked silly. And, this guy's so that was just one of the fun times in the 2003 year, but it was really hard to sit back and smile and grimace and think of, my God, it's going to be the last ride. I miss it every day of my life. And people ask me, the business end drove me crazy. On Monday morning you get the adding machine out to see, how much you broke, how much you won, how much you had to pay out. I did that. Well, that's racing in fuel racing. And I was there for 33 years with not a lot of sponsorship. Fred Wagenhals was at the top of the list of people that helped me. And my favorite sponsor in all of motorsports was Goodyear. It will still always be my favorite. I'll touch on a little, I know you gave me 3 minutes, Steve, but that's, okay, so here I'll share one story that I think is interesting. When I foolishly got on my head in 1984 at 250 miles an hour, 249, I took a tumble. I mean, it beat the Jesus out of me, I should say. And I was up for 18 months. At that weekend, Leo Mel, who was Goodyear's world racing director, was coming off an airplane at some big airport, JFK, and he heard two women talking about this accident in Montreal, and he questioned them, and come to find out it was his girl, Shirley. What he did is he went back to the office and he started the wheels rolling to design, produce, and deliver a 350 mile per hour tested front tire. So what happened to me wasn't going to happen to another driver. And that's the tire they run on today, still today, called the Shirley tire. So, and Goodyear changed our sport forever. And NHRA was, they were right there behind them. They finally realized that we need guardrail from stem to stern. It doesn't end in the lights where we're doing 250. So everyone learned a lesson there. And the sport is, to this day, is much better for it. And I'm proud to say that they named that tire after me. But I thought I would take just a handful, just a few. Is there any question that you really want to ask me, but you're afraid to come up to me? Well, now is your chance. Okay, go ahead.
Is the Rice Hall story true?
Here's another one that drives up a wall. When they made the movie Heart Like a Wheel, they sold the distribution, just allowed 20th Century Fox to do the distribution and the advertising. Of course, those dummies, they billed it as a B film. It wasn't a B film. And I had a number of other complaints. The advertising had this beautiful face with big brown eyes. Well, I had blue eyes. And of course, I picked up on that. Anything I could to, slap them, spank them a little. But come to find out, the last year, I've had 4 or 5 producers call me and want to do Heart Like a Wheel #2. But do it right. Make sure it's not the Connie Coletta story. It's the Shirley Muldowney story. And, right. That might take those around Richmond, Michigan, saying, they made a movie about me. That's pretty much, what I have to deal with. But come to find out, we're trying to get this new movie up and get it rolling. 20th Century Fox owns the rights to my life because of Heart Like a Wheel 1. And there's not a thing I can do in this world without them. And I want to just strangle the head guy there, but...
Story about saving your life possibly by packing rice hulls in your severe wounds to stop it bleeding. Was that true?
That's news to me, but I was, upon the car impacted, and the car disintegrated, because we had, through lack of knowledge, we had sandblasted the frame twice for paint. Well, they don't paint them any longer, and they shattered, and my legs got out for 300 feet. So I was lucky to get out of the mess I was in, thanks to NHRA's paramedic, on-site paramedic, Ronnie Davis, who passed away last year, and the safety safari, and all the fans and the racers that supported me, took up collections. They Chrysler donated a little K car for a raffle that all the Top Fuel wives sold tickets for all year long, and at the end of the year, they made me pay for the car that I had to give away. Interesting story, but I told Chrysler I'd get even. I just did. I'll leave you with that, okay? But thank you, Steve.
Once again, some great stories by Shirley Muldowney. We all learned some trivia that we did not know.
Signing posters and whatnot.
Yes, and I'm happy to sign whatever you bring. You don't have to buy a poster to get my signature. And you can, bring up your stuff, your Shirley stuff or whatever, and I'm happy to sign it. And I want to thank the Hall of Fame members and all the people that voted for me. Gee, Shirley, wake up. It's, my big crowds bother me a little bit unless it's one-on-one, and I really have a nice rapport with my fans one-on-one because I spend a little time at it.
First Lady of Drag Racing, Shirley Modown. Man, I never heard that story before. Roy Hill is here, so keep your hand on your wallet. Sandy, as far as performance, do you have something you wanted to touch on?
I just want to appreciate y'all for allowing us to be a sponsor and be involved with drag racing. It is a dream come true for me because I used to watch Shirley when I was 19 and just dream of sitting in one of those cars. So thank you, Shirley, for all the inspiration, and thank you for allowing us to sponsor and keep drag racing alive.
Once again, that was Miss Scarlett's from the Scarlett's Performance Division in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. One of the main sponsors here this weekend.
Down to Pro Mod and good old Southeast Gasser man himself. I'd like to bring Mr. Mitch Stott up to the podium here. Mitch, he's going to introduce his brother, Quayne Stott. Here he comes. I was in the wrong direction. Take it away, brother.
Thank you. I was told that I had 3 to 5 minutes, but after Shirley, I think I can take 30, or maybe I've just got 1. I don't know which way to look at this. Oh, here it's saying 1. Well, I've often said if a racer's story could be told in 3 minutes, he probably shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. But anyway, that's what I'm going with, so just bear with me. I'm Mitch Stott, and it's an honor to induct my brother Quayne Stott into the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame. And I do have to, however, just to be clear, Quayne and I are brothers, obviously, share the same last name, and so most of these awards that he's gotten or been given probably should have went to me, short of mistaken identity. So anyway, all jokes aside, Quayne Stott has been one heck of a drag racer for all of his life, a dedicated drag racer. According to our mother, Marvita Stott, Quayne's journey into drag racing started when he was very young. And along about his 8th birthday, the Hot Wheels brand of cars was introduced. And this was exactly what he needed to start to build that fire that would ultimately consume his life. Upon reaching his teenage years, his hot rodding desires was burning out of control. Our dad bought him a 67 4-speed Camaro with a small block. It wasn't long. There was a local street racer, Harold Williams, had called him out. Microphone, y'all got control of this thing? Y'all cut me out. Anyway, okay. They had this street race, and the Camaro was the better of the 2 cars. Quayne won. Next thing you know, he winds up at rear drag strip. And that was the actual foundations, the beginnings of Quayne's journey into the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame. Well, as time would pass, Quayne started making modifications to this Camaro that caught on by the local guys, and that kind of was the beginning of Stott Chassis Engineering that became very well known in the eastern United States drag racing circles. Unfortunately, in the form of theft, that Camaro was stolen and never recovered. Obviously, that car would be of great, great prize to Quayne today if it were still around, but as we said, it's not. In the years to follow, Quayne competed in many forms of drag racing, classes, cars, things that he accomplished at a very young age, by his mid-20s. And then he found his way back into street racing a little bit, kind of coming full circle. And then he was introduced to this thing called grudge racing, where it was one pass, a lot of money bet, and Quine was very, very successful in that. That, in my opinion, was the beginning of his professional career, which spanned some 19 years, finishing in the top 10 in all of those 19 years, and a greater percentage of that in the top 5. Ultimately clinching a championship with the IHRA in Pro Modified category in 2006. And then, throughout that time, these were the real testaments to why Quine would be in a Hall of Fame of drag racing. He was awarded the Don Carlton Sportsmanship Award. And then another time, he was awarded Sportsmanship Award. Then in 2001, he was awarded the coveted Carcraft Magazine All-Star Driver Award. And then in 2010, he was voted 11th in the top 20 all-time Pro Mod drivers sponsored by Competition Plus magazine. It was of all these awards that really summed up Quine's racing career and who he was. These are things that were voted on by fans, civic awards. And in this is where this odd, often mispronounced name of Quine became this proverbial household name. And through all of that, he never lost sight of what his objectives were, his dedication to his fellow competitors, his fans. He was always a promising and positive head and director, and one for someone to look up to in drag racing. Quine continued in Pro Modified until 2011, when he became frustrated with rules that seemed to favor money over talent. And as he was beginning, his interest was beginning to dim in that, Quine's greatest accomplishment to date started burning his mind, and that being the Southeast Gassers Association. What Quine has ultimately delivered back to drag racing, the sport that has given so much to he and I both, is nothing short of spectacular, in my opinion, magnificent. The Southeast Gassers Association takes us back to a time when talent was more valuable than money, when driver aids didn't exist, when cars were built in backyards and basements, individual creativity, and the stands packed the races. You go to a Sega race today, that's what you see. But to sum it all up, I think the many reasons that Quine could have been inducted into the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame. It was Quine's quest for speed and to cross the finish line first, and to do it in a fair and honest way while doing anything he could to help his fellow competitors. I think this is the reason why he was selected as an inductee into the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame. I'll leave you to these words. Winning races lasts for a few weeks. Winning a championship lasts for a year. Being inducted into the Hall of Fame lasts forever. Quine Scott.
Oh, what a great saying.
What an honor. Mitch said it all. I don't think there's much left for me to say, because that's why I'm glad he's the one done it, so I don't have to talk much. But when I started racing in 1975, I set a lot of goals for myself. And as Mitch pointed out, I accomplished most of them. But the one goal I never set was to be inducted in the North Carolina Hall of Fame. Because I could never figure there was any reason for a redneck Green Creek, North Carolina to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. So I still don't know why he done it. I told somebody, I said, you guys must have bumped your head or something. But I'm here, so I do appreciate it, and they're all involved. I had a lot of people that's patting me on the back for this accomplishment, but I want to tell you real quick, it was not me. It was the great people that I've surrounded myself with over the years. If you want to pat me on the back for anything, pat me on the back for being able to have the ability to choose the correct people. Because that's something I am proud of. I'm proud of being able to find the people. For example, my pro mod career wouldn't have gone anywhere without key people involved. My brother Mitch brought in 75% of the sponsorship that kept it going. D. Bragg, Greg Waldrop volunteer crewed for me for, I think, almost 17 years. That volunteered. Leroy Paving Equipment, y'all know, 17 long years sponsored me. Obviously wouldn't be here without Leroy. There's no way. But everybody knows the backbone to my racing was Cynthia Phillips. Cynthia was with me for 36 years and supported me. One time she even loaned me money to keep racing. How many women would do that? Most of them want you to quit. But one of the lowest points of my life was losing Cynthia 2 years ago. But she would be awful proud of this day if she was here. And the same is true for Southeast Gasser Association, that Mitch just pointed out. I was talking to Jim Turner yesterday, and he said what I did in Pro Mod was great. But what I did with Southeast Gassers is the reason I'm here today. Because that has made a big difference. And again, Southeast Gasser Association was not me. It was the people I surrounded myself with that made it work. The great racers, the great employees, the great sponsors, some of the best fans in the world has made the Southeast Gasser Association what it is. And I'm really proud of what the Southeast Gasser Association has done for the sport of drag racing in the last 11 years. It's brought people together, and it's done wonders for preserving the history. A lot of people ask me what my future is. What's the future for Queen Stoughton Racing? Because every year I say I'm quitting. And, you know, y'all know that feeling, don't you? Every year I say, I've had enough, I'm getting out of it. Well, my future is to make y'all proud that you put me in the Hall of Fame. I want to keep on earning the right to be here. I don't want it to be what I did. I want it to be what I'm going to do. And everybody knows it takes the support of a good woman to be successful at anything. And I have the support of my sidekick, Heather Peak. Heather's been with me now for over a year, and she's been supporting all I do. So with her help, we're taking the Southeast Gassers to the next level. We'll show the fans all over the country what drag racing was like back in the day when it was real. And so hopefully to give it even more reason for my name to be here. But I want to thank Jim Turner and all you guys that put this together. I thank everybody for voting for me there again. I think you bumped your head, but hey, I'll take it. This is really a great honor, and I could stand up here all day and talk, but I'm not going to. And I want to also congratulate the rest of the people, all the past inductees, the people that's getting inducted today, so thank you very much.
Once again, Queen Stott with a great speech. Recognize everybody that got him in the Hall of Fame.
Man, he does a great thing, and I've witnessed his events at Farmington Dragway, and he does a great job wherever he does. All right, folks, we move along. As Ty Thorpe will come up and introduce this gentleman that I've had the honor to know for several years. We go way back. And Ty, come on up. Mr. Jay Turner is going to this Hall of Fame. He's going to tell a few words about him. Of course, his record speaks for itself, that's for sure.
All right. Can everybody hear me without this? I hate these things. All right. I'm mild down prayer, but that's pretty normal. So Jay Turner is one of my best friends, and obviously, you know, this race family, y'all understand that. So I trust him with my life, my safety. We're tight. It's not always been that way. Jay and me, at the beginning, didn't like each other very much. And not that we didn't dislike each other, but we weren't huge fans. And so it's come a long way, and here we are now. And I'm just very proud of him, proud that he has got into the Hall of Fame. And life sure is a trip sometimes, but I'm gonna keep this real short. But I just want to thank Jay, congratulate Jay, and things come full circle, you know. So you come from, you know, too many kids, hard-headed people, right? To being real good friends and being surrounded by a great race family. And so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for y'all and for Jay Turner. So congratulations, Jay.
Once again, Nitro Harley rider Jay Turner, local to the Greensboro area, coming in the Hall of Fame next.
Great skills is racing. One of my worst skills is public speaking. So. I would like to thank the voting members of the Hall of Fame for putting me here. This is something that I never, like Wayne said, I never set a goal of one day that I was going to be in the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to the members of the Hall of Fame and the inductees of this year.
Some people wanted to put you in 2 or 3 years ago, but Daddy
Well, when they said you're going in the Hall of Fame, the first thing I said was, well, I'm not quitting yet. I said, that's okay. So that's good. The motorcycle side of the Hall of Fame is a stacked deck of members that I would consider legends and heroes. Pete Hill, Ray Price, Danny Johnson, Elmer Trett, Jim McClure, Bill Furman. They're all guys that I grew up watching, and they're all one of the reasons why I wanted to be here, be a motorcycle racer. I got started in racing with my father and Jerry Joyce and Mark Joyce when they reopened Farmington Dragway in the 70s. And Uncle Fred he raced pro stock, and at that point I thought there wasn't anything better than pro stock cars. And then Dad had a motorcycle race, and that was the first time that I had smelled nitromethane. And I said, well, I have to do that. So then Dad's mom and Dad formed the Southern Cycle Racing Association, and it was just more of the same of being around legends all the time and getting to know them and actually consider them to be friends. And so I went to college, and that wasn't very good. It didn't last very long either. And I decided that I needed to get my dad to talk to me again, so I enlisted in the Army. That was a life changer. You know, it taught me a lot of things, taught me what I needed to be and what I didn't need to be. And when I got my first bike, you know, I had a lot of help from Elmer Trett, Jim, Bill Furr, and I was not very good. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was lucky that I didn't die or kill somebody else. I really have to thank Jim McClure and Phyllis for being a part of my life for most of my life. And you know, Jim was the first person that that really went out of his way to help me. And he said, he said, if you bring your parts up here, I work on them for free, and he just paid for the parts. And most of the time I paid for the parts. And he never talked about the times that I didn't. One of the biggest breaks I got, not one of the biggest break I got in my career was when Bobby Buckley called me to ride his bike. And it was the first time I got put on a bike with good equipment. And it was the turning point of my career. We were good. We liked each other. We were family. We weren't just a race team. I wasn't just a rider. He wasn't just an owner. And it was, without Bobby, I would never be standing up in front of you right here today. So everybody know that. Like Quayne said, nobody gets there by themselves. It's a group effort. You know, drag racing is probably the biggest team sport that there is, and you're not going to be up here without a great team. And I'm very happy to have a great team, a great race family. Everybody that's associated with me, I really appreciate everything that you do. There's too many people to list without leaving somebody out, and I don't want to do that. I see Clyde Mendenhall right there. You know, other than a family member, I don't have a memory without Clyde Mendenhall in it. It's an extreme honor. You know, I started this journey sometime around in the mid-70s, and I was just a kid at the racetrack. And 45 years later, I'm still a kid at the racetrack. It must be way down inside, but that's the way I feel. And lastly, I would not be standing here today without the love and support of my parents believing in me and trusting me. Thank you.
Once again, Jay Turner inducted into the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame, current Nitro Harley rider.
We failed to mention that he's a multi-time world champion when it comes to top fuel. And also, beside riding the bike good, the man can work on them for folks, build them, you name it. I'll tell you what, Jay Turner, champion in his own right, on and off the track. All right, folks, now we move on to another guy that I literally seen grow up at the drag strip. I'm going to tell a quick story on him. I didn't put the picture out there, but it's been on Facebook. But way back in the day, we had high school drags at Farmington Dragway. He knew where I'm going here. And it was a good little deal. You know, we're talking about the late 70s. People were cruising Stratford Road. We're trying to get them off the street, get them on the drag strip. Well, guess what? We had high school drags, and Todd Teterow run Mr. Jerry Dildine in the finals. And it's quite a legendary little picture there, but it will all get started somewhere. But I'll tell you what, this is another man that not only great driver, great tuner, but great family man. So I'm going to get Mr. Larry Waller to come up here and say a few words, introduce Todd Teterow into this Hall of Fame. He's also a Hall of Fame member, Mr. Larry Waller, silver dollar.
One of the greatest announcers from back in the day.
This is great. We really appreciate this crowd. How about that Shirley? She's tough, ain't she? Got a story to tell on Jim Turner, too. James talked about racing motorcycles. Well, I was helping Jim some at the track, working for him, and I said, why is he riding a motorcycle? Jim said, that's what he wants to do. And he was very successful at it. Well, I'm here to introduce Todd Teterow, pro mod racer, one of the greatest that's ever raced in pro mod. Todd come along, just like Mark said, paid his dues, and he wanted it. He was dedicated. Being in the booth and announcing racing all the years, I got to see every race for everybody and every driver, so I got to be a pretty good judge of who could do it, who couldn't. Well, I knew right off Todd was going for it. He's going to get it done. He's had an excellent career. He's won championships in all kinds of divisions, multiple championships, probably 20-something championships he's won over his career. It's amazing. He's not only a great drag racer, he's an innovator and a fine tuner.
he built the time drives, helped all modified racers, pro modified racers. And he helps a lot of people. He's very dedicated to the sport. And as it goes, behind every good man is a good woman.
So, I remember as a kid going around and I'd go buy baseball cards and I'd get my mama's clothesline, I'd pull off the pin, snap them on the phone, so I'd ride around, hit clap, clap, clap. That was racing. It was all in my blood, so. All through school, all I dreamed about was racing, cars. I wasn't much on school. Went into high school there, career center. I had my teacher, Maurice Hayes, never forget it. I was in there one day and he had career days. Got to me and said, Todd, what's going to be your career? I said, I'm going to be a professional drag racer. He looked at me and snickered. He goes, yes, son, there's a lot of people want to do that. So he laughed. He followed my career right on. Then he got to tell the same story to all these kids at school. Watched me grow up, watched me get to do what I wanted to do. Started out bracket racing. All I dreamed about was going fast. Bracket racing was okay, class racing done a little bit of that. Once I'm done pretty good. But all I want to do is get fast. And ended up meeting my wife, Denise. Or I met Denise. Her family liked cars, I liked cars. She liked racing. I married her. Larry Tutterow came along, was my cousin. Everybody knew him as Taylor. He supercharged this thing. He gets involved, he buys car after car after car. I mean, I'm going from hot rod to super stock, and run some modified stuff. Bought an old car from one of Ricky Smith's old cars. He called Bickle and bought that thing from me. He was trying to trade a chicken house. He was going to trade chicken house for a race car. You know, and it was all about my family stuff. Cause, you know, Taylor, he was a big family man. He kept my dad involved with it. We'd come over and work on cars at night. Claude Tutterow, he went with us. He kept things all shined up. My wife, we just made a group effort out of it. We went from, like I said, hot rod, super stock, factory modified, run mountain motor pro stock, did a little bit of NHRA pro stock, and then pro mod. That's what I was looking at. Quick head racing and pro mod, fast cars. Now we're in it. Eventually, that kind of deal, I went and started driving for Don Clemens. My kids, I say grandkids, my grandkids are the ones in here making all this noise. But my kids called Papa Don. He was good for me through the years now. Me and Robert, Greg, we'd stay over there at night. We'd work full-time job, 10, 12 hours a day, go over there work 5 or 6 hours a night. I mean, it was midnight by the time we got home every weekend. And not the weekend, during the week. Raced 30 races a year, it seemed like it was just never ending deal. Winning races, winning championships, we done it now. All of a sudden, Wild Motorsports come on. Bought 41 wheels. Tommy Money, can't forget that now. Robert, Greg, they stood right by my side. There we go, more wins and championships. Had Sammy Phillips right on board with us too. Next thing I know, we have about 3 cars. We're running everything we can run. Big Dog. Jim had a good sanctioning deal over there. I mean, we dominated that thing when we was over there racing. Yeah. Caused a lot of rules, caused a lot of heartache. We was fighting on the start line. We done a little bit of all of it. I had other people like Mike Shelton. He come and got in bed. Bob Oza drove some car for him. Hal Ashley. Running everything. Some nitrous cars, blown cars, turbo cars, Pro Street, Quick Eights, Big Dog, ADRL championships, and win more championship. 2009, commune went a little bad, sold grading business, not sold it, basically give it away. Full-time drag racing. Had an opportunity, Alanabi, KH, Shake Callett. He come on board with me, made me go places. Then right along that, we got Galot Motorsports, Earl Wells. Back with the AP again. Now today, P2 Contracting, Kirk Steady, Wendy Steady. Family stuff again. families, we race together, and we're just a good group of people. It's all about family, friends, and faith. Congratulations, Shirley Downey, Queen Stott, and Jake Turner being up here, and all the other honorees throughout the years. Thank you, Jim, for what you do, and you taught me a lot. It's all about a show. We're racers, yeah, we want to race, but we put on a show. You put a good show on down there, and I didn't mind putting the show on, because I like showing off anyway. We'll thank all the tracks, promoters, car owners, fans. It's been a great ride. God bless.
All righty, the one and only King Tut.
There you are. Ain't no better than the Tedder. We can cheer now. Had to throw that Don in there. All right, folks, we move on to the next award, the Jeff Burrow Award, and to present that, Greg Burrows for Mr. Bobby Bennett.
Thanks, sir. I will try to do this out of the microphone, I'm not going to. It's amazing how everybody got started out as a young kid, and they'll tell you the story about all I want to do is go to drag strip. Well, the guy I'm going to introduce, that's what he wanted to do. 12 years old, he wanted to go to drag strip, and his daddy told him, too much fighting, too much drinking. How many times have we ever heard that? So anyhow, it was $5 to get in. That was way too much. Wasn't gonna let him have any money. But he persevered, and at the age of 15, he went to the bank and he borrowed money to start his first publication. And it didn't work out too good, but somewhere along the way, he thanked his father for being a hard worker, and also his mother for a never say die attitude. And through all this time, he met a guy who was my best friend, David Bishop, and David took him under his wing and introduced him to people like Stevie Collison, John Asher, and others that were into drag racing media. So now, fast forward to today, that young man has persevered, and now he's been in it 23, 24 years, and he tells me he's going to retire, but I don't see that. Bobby has established CompetitionPlus.com, as you know, and of course, Vance here with Drag Illustrated, I do some work for them, but we all are in the media side of it together, and I just have to say it like this: we don't make much money, but we have a lot of fun, and we get to meet a lot of great people.
Never a more truer statement than that.
One of his greatest accomplishments was he had John Force on speed dial. I don't know how that works out, but anyway, he tells us about it. So at this time, we introduce the recipient this year of the Jeff Bird Memorial Lifetime Achievement Award from downtown Spartanburg, South Carolina, Mr. Bobby Bennett.
Well, they warned me not to talk too long because I would get the Roy Hill hook. And seeing earlier that Steve Earwood is the proverbial Roy Hill hook, so if I see him coming, I'm going to get done in a hurry. I got to tell you, looking out at you, I'm a man who considers myself to be a wordsmith, and I'm trying not to be a Ricky Smith up here. You just got to understand. Writing about every one of you, going to the drag races, making a living, there's just no words for it. Especially for a kid that all I wanted to do was be part of the sport. I didn't have money. I really didn't have a lot of technical skills. In fact, what's lower than zero? That's how many technical skills I have. You know, when they told me that I was being recognized as a Jeff Bird Lifetime Achievement Award winner, I could envision Jeff sitting up there in drag racing heaven. And Steve can understand when I say this. He said, "You gave my award to who?" Are you sure? Because that boy wasn't hitting on much when I came up here. But, you know, I've kind of patterned my life and my career as Mr. Bird, as many of you knew, was the ultimate MSH guy. Now, if you're, those of you not familiar with MSH, that is, make stuff happen, or other words in Queen's stock shop. But they don't say stuff. You know, when I started in this business, I was a hot mess. And some of you that knew me knew that I epitomized what a hot mess was. I had more dreams and aspirations than I had common sense. And that's the honest to goodness truth. But there were a lot of people that took me under their wing, like the late Dave Bishop and Dave Wallace. And Dave Wallace helped build up what I want to say is that I was pretty cocky, and I didn't have much to be cocky for, if that makes sense. So Stevie Collison, I finally got him to take one of my stories. And it was on an obscure bracket racer named Scotty Cannon. And I called him, and I said, did you get the story? He said, yeah, it's running on the January 88 issue on the cover. I said, oh, it was good? No, don't quit your day job to do this yet, kid. And it just broke my confidence. And then Dave Wallace says, kid, you suck. You really do. But we're going to make you unsuck. And he started teaching me about writing and presenting my stories. And as Greg alluded to earlier, I lived about 3/4 of a mile uphill from the Great Spartanburg Dragway. I know many of you race there. And I could hear those cars every day. So I went to my mom and I said, Mom, let's go to the drag strip. Because my mom was the best thing that ever happened to me. I love my dad, but my mom was my mom. She taught me how to play baseball, and if she had lived, I probably would have been a Major League Baseball player. Probably would have taken Roger Clemens' yard a couple of times. That's the cockiness I'm saying. But she were alive today. She could be right here, which I know she's here looking down on me. I'd say, just like Greg alluded to, I didn't hit those home runs, but I do have Shirley Muldowney and John Force on speed dial. To which she said, you make more money playing baseball. But anyway, mom said, too much beer drinking and fighting going on. Of course, she didn't see my 20-something years. And then my dad, $5, too much. He grew up a Depression-era kid. So, all that week, in June of 1979, I made test runs down to the drag strip to see how long it'd take me to get down there and how long it would take to get back. And when that happened, Saturday I went and asked Mom, I said, I'm going to go ride my bike. Okay, be careful. I went to the drag strip, and I learned that it was 11 and under got in free. I was 12. So I told the man, I got down there, he says, how old are you? I said, 11. He said, well, 11 and under gets in free. I said, well, there you go. What I didn't count on was there were being 12 modified eliminator cars there going through the gearboxes. So what was supposed to be a 1-hour visit turned into 2.5 hours. And the next thing I know, at 2.5 hours, I hear this sound, Bobby, time to go home. And I looked over and there was my dad with his southern drawl. He said, where'd you get the money to get in here? And I said, I told the man I was 11. He said, well, you know that's a lie. You don't go tell that man how old you are and hope he don't send you off to college. So I'm crying and everything, and I go up to this man and I say, sir, and he says, that's okay, son. My dad said, no, it ain't. I ain't gonna teach that boy that you go through life lying and cheating and stealing for people and expect to get ahead. And then he reached in his wallet, pulled out $5 to give to the man. I said, oh, I get the steak. No, you going home. Get the peddling. So I pedaled 3/4 of a way uphill back home as he passed me in his '68 Ford Galaxy and didn't even wave or stop. He kept on. He didn't talk to me for the rest of that night. I mean, my dad, he couldn't even look at me. He was so disgusted. Then that night he asked me to come in and say my prayers with him. He said, "You were willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get in here?" I said, "Dad, I didn't want to lie to anybody, didn't want to cheat. I sure wouldn't steal from anybody. But nobody would give me a chance, so I made my own chance." And I think somewhere in life, this is how we all got here, that we made our own chance. 19 years old, when none of the magazines would give me a chance to write for them, I went to North Carolina National Bank and borrowed $1,500. Started my own magazine called Competition Plus. Lasted 8 months, 800 subscribers, and I went broke. But I got a chance to write for Superstock and Drag Illustrated and everything. And in 1999, I created this publication called CompetitionPlus.com. And I went to sell my first ad to a guy who said, "How are you going to sell me an ad to a magazine I can't take to the crapper with me?" and I said, "It's coming in the palm of your hand in years to come." He said, "No, I don't think this internet thing's going to catch on." So, you know, it's one of those things where when nobody will give you a chance, you make your own chance. And I would be doing a great disservice if I didn't honor my mom and dad. Never got to see it. My dad, he gave me the work ethic. My mom, she gave me the never quit. To my wife, Christy, of over 20 years, she saved my life. Best thing to ever, when the COVID hit me and I was going to die, and I thought the last words I was ever going to speak to her, I said, "Marrying you was the best thing I ever did in my life. If I don't see you again, I'll see you on the other side." I'd like to thank the late Dave Bishop, who just took a kid and gave him a chance. Introduced me to the great people. And when I've written just about on every one of you here. Lots of times late at night when everybody's gone. Lots of times when I had to come back 3 times when you said you were too busy to talk to me, but that's okay. I'd like to thank the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame, its selectors, Jim, Steve, Mark, everybody here, for giving a kid a chance who just wanted to be. Sorry, I promised I wasn't going to be Ricky Smith up here, but it's kind of hard.
Made it past that.
It's kind of hard because, you know, the late Paul Trussell asked me, and I'll close with this. Oh, I got to thank my daughter Emily. She's here because I'd hear about it all the way down the hall. She's taken over the business in the Competition Plus because I'm getting kicked out the door eventually. And Steve's not coming up with a hook yet, so I'm doing okay. But, you know, it's just, words can't describe it. Words can't describe it. And thank you. Thank you for letting me live again.
What a great backstory by Bobby Bennett, CompetitionPlus.com.
Great words, great words. All right, now we move on to our Pioneer Award, and to present our Pioneer Award inductees, the one, the only, Roy Hill, with about 1 minute to do it with. We've had Michael Halls and the late Bob Reed. Come on, Leroy Hill. The Hillbilly. Go on, stay on it. And you don't want that Steve Earwood hook.
Where is Steve? I know with old Talbot and Jim. Yeah. You know, first of all, I want to tell Shirley I'm very proud of what you've done in your life. I don't think he realizes this, but I was at the racetrack in Canada when she had her accident. I was over that guardrail before Safety Safari got there. And as everybody knows, Steve Airwood and myself are very close in a lot of different ways. And Steve handled the media with NHRA. And so that night, Steve and myself went to the hospital. Me and Shirley's had some differences, but I never lost respect for what she's done. A couple years ago, I had an accident. I got run over. You see me walk up here. I had to learn to walk all over. That lady there did too, and I'm very proud of her. Queen, Jay, Todd, congratulations. And this is something that will never leave you. Shirley's got a lot of them. I've got a few, but being inducted to the Hall of Fame means an awful lot to you the rest of your life. To get on through this, Bob Reed, Bullet Bob they called him. We all knew who he was. To me, he was a doggone good super stock racer the first few years. Super stock when he got 68 Barracuda. Buddy Martin and Ronnie Sox made the Barracudas, and they made super stock. But Bob Reed come along a few years afterwards and was running a Barracuda, and he was fast. And so I listen a lot, and I feel things as people go down the track. Bob Reed had a 5-speed transmission before anybody even knew there was 5-speed transmissions. And that's one of the things that made him so quick and fast and win. I remember, I can't tell you what year it is or was, I got a phone call from Mr. Fred Wagenow. He said, my boy's at Indy and his helmet won't pass spec. So we know you can do something to make this happen. I'll make things happen. I called Bill Simpson. Fred, you probably remember, Bob had a large head, 9.5, something like that. And there wasn't no helmets available, anything like that. And Bob said, can you help me? I called Bill Simpson. He was based there in Indianapolis. And they got a helmet out there the next morning for Bob Reed. I can't tell you what that done for Bob through the years. But I learned early in life who was behind helping Bob Reed. As people say, we all have people that help get us to a point. My friend, Fred Wagenow and Bob Reed went to school together. And so I got to meet Fred in the 70s. On the way to California, we'd stop in Phoenix and have dinner or go have a drink or two or whatever. Those were some years back, way back. But what he has done for this sport and all motorsports, he's an engineer. He's got a brain and can see the future. And that's how he helped Bob make those Hemis run. Before that, they had a gasser together, and it's unbelievable how quick it was. Fred started, when I first met him, I remember the mechanical bull. Well, I'm going to start with that one. We all remember that, the Urban Cowboy. I was involved with Larry Mahan a little bit, and Larry endorsed the bull deal, but Fred made all this. Fred made a lot of parts that I can't even tell you Later on, he made a little mini car, operated with gas. There was a budget rental car and a budget truck. Whenever we introduced that program in Phoenix, it was all made, and the president of budget drove that car out on stage. You can't understand what that meant to me in budget. Later on, I'm in Pomona, California, and Waterbed Fred. I think a lot of you know who that is. Come up to me and said, I got you some money. I said, yeah. He said, I work for Fred Wagonall and Action Products. All of us know who builds the little cars. And he handed me a check for $10,000. But let me tell you, $10,000 is a lot of money to me. And they had the full rights of my Capri. No, excuse me, my Pro. And through those years, I got to know Fred better and better. I learned to buy stock in Action Products. He helped make me money. I can't tell you the kind of money Shirley made from Fred. I can't tell you the exact dollar from Richard Childers, Dale Earnhardt, but I can tell you this. He believed in his company enough to go home and tell his wife he was selling his house. He had to give Earnhardt $300,000. That takes dedication. And as time comes along, the company gets sold, and he can tell you the millions of dollars, hundreds of millions he made. I just say that. But he called me 5, 6 years ago and said, I'm gonna do something that you might want to be involved in. He's buying a company, he's gonna name it Ammo, bullets. You understand? And it was in Phoenix, and they moved it, Wisconsin now, is that right, Fred? Anyway, from making bullets, he owns his own lead company, his own powder company, and his own brass company. That went straight up. But what did something for me, he said, you can be involved in the first buy-in. And so, it's unbelievable. I bought in, I don't know, I got 100,000 shares. Rusty Wallace, I think, got 250, Richard Childers, 250, 300. Don't know what they got now, and I've got more. But Fred Wagonall have made Roy Hill a lot of money. Well, it's just an unbelievable guy. And it's my honor to say he owns Ammo and Gun Brothers now. You see it around on some of my cars. But Fred, come on up here, and he's the man to me.
Maybe Fred can make me some money.
Well, I was going to have Richard Childress or Rusty Wallace introduce me, but they were both at Daytona. So I had to go with Roy Hill. But, you know, I know most of you are drag racing fans, so I'll tell you a few drag racing stories going back to the action days. And I had Shirley, Don the Snake Verdone, Gartlett's and John Force. The only two that were marketers were Shirley and John Force. The rest of them were true racers, didn't want to talk to you about how to market their product or anything. But Shirley, it was a real honor to do the last program with her final lap, and really enjoyed it. And she's a true marketing genius besides the racing. But let me tell you a few stories about my NASCAR days. Well, I'll tell you one more about drag racing. I went to Elvis Presley Enterprise,
and I said, I want to do a program with John Force and Rusty Wallace, the drag racing and NASCAR. And Priscilla Presley said, I want to do the program. So I put them on the hood of the car, both cars, the uniforms that Rusty and John had. We were going to introduce the car on the steps of Caesar's Palace. So the cars were there. They had a limo out back. Priscilla, John Force, Rusty Wallace, myself, and the limo were going to drive out front. You can only imagine the conversation between John Force and Rusty Wallace with Priscilla Presley. It was crazy. But I took Priscilla to a drag race, and they had people put makeup on her. So we get her up on the starting line. You can just imagine all the tire prints all over her face. But she was a great person to work with. It was a great marketing program. And out of that marketing program, I think John Force, Rusty Wallace made a couple $1 million a piece just off of die-cast t-shirts and hats. Let me tell you the Dale Earnhardt story. I was friends with Neil Bonnet, and I called Neil one day and I said, Neil, I need to get Earnhardt's license, because I knew if I could knock Earnhardt off, the rest would follow. And he said, well, if you want to talk to him, he's right here. We're in Dearborn in Alabama. So put Dale on the phone. He said, how much will you give me? I said, I need your exclusive license. He said, how much? I said, I just pulled the number out of the air, $300,000. He said, bring the money to the farm. You got my license. And my son and I, Todd, who's here, and 2 other people started Action Performance. And I went home that day and I said to my wife number 3, we gotta sell the house. And we sold the house, moved into an apartment, gave Earnhardt my last $300,000, and he always says I handed the check over to him like that, which I probably did. But the Wednesday night before Dale died, I was on the boat with him. We went to supper, and I was on the boat, and we were drinking. It was just him and I. And he said, you know, how much did you pay me this year in royalties? Off of t-shirts, hats, and die-cast cars. And I paid my royalties quarterly to Earnhardt. And I said, Dale, last year you made $13 million in royalties. He said, oh, we made $1.5 million driving the car for Richard. And so he said, shouldn't we up the guarantee for $300,000? I said, what makes any difference? But I was paying those guys $5, $6, $7 million a year. Rusty, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart. But one day I walked into Earnhardt's trailer, and I had his license from 93 to 96. And I said, Dale, I can only sell so many black t-shirts and so many black little die-cast cars. I got an idea. I want to change the car for one race. Let's get the hell out of here. I only drive a black car. I said, Dale, I met with T. Wayne. I said, let's do a silver car, because it's the 25th anniversary of R.J. Reynolds and NASCAR. He said, no, I'm not doing it. Richard's standing there. I said, boy, I'd pay you a lot of money. He said, how much money? I said, I'll pay you $1 million, guarantee $1 million. Well, it was a secret deal. We had all the merchandise, silver merchandise, if anybody remembers those days. And Earnhardt made $3.5 million for one race. So when the race was over and I gave him his royalty check, he said, that was about a month later, He said, what are we gonna do next year? So then, if you remember, it was the Olympic car, and it just kept going on and on. Then I had Rusty coming up to me, well, you gotta do a special car for me. And every driver was coming up to me, gotta do special cars. But my life's been a hell of a ride. I mean, you know, we took action from 2 million in sales to 407 million in sales in 8 years.
Wow.
It drove the France family crazy because I had all the merchandising rights for everybody. And they didn't have the rights for the drivers. I did. They were all independent contractors. And in 2002, I got to ring the bell on NASCAR. I took Rusty Wallace, Richard Childress, John Force with me to ring the bell. We had Earnhardt's trailer on Wall Street. The first time Wall Street was opened after 9/11. Tell you a little story about Richard Childress. When I got Earnhardt's right, Richard came about a year after I was paying all these royalties. He said, you don't own the number 3. I said, no, Dale gave it to me. He said, bullshit, you don't own that right. I own the rights. So I paid him $3 million to get the rights. And if, you know, I was just with Richard and Rusty, and when they'll introduce me to somebody, they'll always say, Richard will tell you, I paid him $30 million of royalties over the years I had his rights. And Earnhardt was way above that. But they always say, this is the house Fred built, this is the plane Fred built. And it wasn't me, it was our company, but we had a hell of a company. I sold it to NASCAR in December of 2005 for $245 million. Was gonna retire. I know most of your hunters and fishermen. I was gonna retire, and Earnhardt always wanted to take me hunting, and I never went. And so Richard, in 2005, said, you gotta go hunting with me. And so, never shot a gun until I was 62 years old, never owned a gun. And so I went hunting with Richard, and I went to Africa with him, I went to New Zealand with him, had a lot of fun hunting. I told him, I says, you know, you go harvest the animal, then you gotta bring it home, then you gotta taxiderm it, then you gotta build a bigger room to put it in. And I said, you know, I've been married 4 times and divorced. I said, you introduced me to something more expensive than women. So it was, you know, it's been a great ride, and I've had a lot of fun with those guys. I mean, I'm still, you know, see people like Shirley. Perdome comes to Phoenix, he stays in my house. Richard and Rusty do. They'll always say, you want to go out to the race? And I went out a couple times with them, and guys and drivers would come up and say, God, Fred, we wish you were back. And I'd say, you don't wish I was back. You wish the royalty checks were back. But anyway,
we got an auction to it. Put an auction to it. He's getting the hook out. He's getting the hook out. Auction. Put closer to it, please.
Thank you anyway.
All right, I need Mr. Freddie Martin up here, please. He's gonna do a little presentation here. He's gonna get us all motivated for what this whole Shriners Expo's about. Ain't that right, buddy? To give back, folks. It goes to great couples.
Make sure they lock the door.
Lock the door. Hall of Famer, Freddie Martin.
Don't let the thread out. Keep it in here. No, just sitting over there thinking about it, hearing the guys talk about it, congratulations to all of you about the chance and what they had to do and so forth to be able to do racing, and do what they wanted to do in life. And we think about the kids, the Shriners. They haven't had that chance, but we could help give them that chance. And so, if you guys that were here a couple of years ago or whatever, remember that we helped get something to them from the Shriners, and we're gonna help them again, and this time we're gonna do even better. So, I've got $100. Roy, we have 200? Okay, we got 200. Somebody else said, just don't give 100. Who was it? Don't make it 300. There we go, we got another 100. And all of you, you don't have to put 100 in. You can put $1 in, you can put $5 in, $10 in, whatever you want to do. But we want to help these kids, and I know you want to help these kids. And this is an opportunity to do something for someone else, not just for us. So let's get this thing going. I got a hat, I got some money. Come on, who wants to get in? We're gonna pass last year, the year before. So, there we go. There we go. See? Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Here we go. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All righty, looks like we're winding down here. I got to get back to my booth. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry we got dropped there. We'll get these up on YouTube tonight or tomorrow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you one more time before the day's over with the mass exodus, all the show cars. Pro Mod are standing by right here at the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame.